This is just about my take on it, because frequently I get asked, which is the difference, you know, what's your favourite? And the simple answer is, so this is the Paramotor side, the bit I enjoy. It's a nice reversible wind today. It's been fairly steady, set up for a launch. But it can also be the trick part. That can die off, and now you set up for a reverse, and now you got to set up for a forward. It's horses for courses, but that's the beauty of paramotoring. It gives you options. I've already done the checks on my wing. Want to get airborne because I'm cooking. I've got the weight on my back. I've done the pre-flight on the machine already, so clear prop. That feels fairly steady from there. Right, let's go. Hammer away. So that is one advantage of paramotoring. You don't need a lot of space to take off from. The ICARUS X was a prime example of that. I would actually say the other way for landing. You kind of need a little bit more space to land than you can actually take off in. The one thing that paramotoring has that nothing else I know has is the unimpinged view. Look at that. Well, my ground speed is 30 miles an hour. I've got 6 litres in my tank, and I've got a mirror that allows me to see my fuel. So the one main difference between the PeaBee and my Paramotor is the requirement to take off. The PeaBee needs more specific infrastructure to take off from. I don't have to point into wind on a PeaBee, I do with the Paramotor. So a lot of people have said to me in the past, how high can you go? Easily above 10,000 feet. Most of my friends are doing a 10,000 foot as a challenge. Hypoxia is a consideration, but yeah, 10,000 feet, no problem. Duration. I can carry significantly more fuel on my Paramotor than I can my PeaBee. That's down to the fact that although the PeaBee is classed as sub-70 exempt for licensing, Paramotors are still in the sub-70 category. Cap 393, I'll put a link in the description. But the reason for that is Paramotors have a maximum takeoff weight with fuel of 70 kilos. If someone can lift 70 kilos, they're doing really, really well. But if you've got a light machine, you can carry a bucket load of fuel and fly for a really, really long time. You're burning between 3 and 4 litres an hour, and you're carrying 30 litres. It's just ridiculous how far you can fly. So height is no object. Wait, we've got another thermal. But the one thing, that you tend to notice with paramotors is you tend to feel a bit more in the sky. I am actually feeling everything at the minute through my bottom. All these thermals, these lumps and bumps, I'm actually going to get away from these people's houses because they're going to get a little bit annoyed. I'm going to press into wind a bit more. And that is, you tend to get rocked around quite a lot. And people call that bump tolerance. There we go. It's just me popping in and out of thermals. Paramotoring speeds. And there's a lot of videos of people doing speeds and they're getting GPS speeds and this, that and the other. At the moment, I'm making 21 miles an hour into wind. And it's a 6 mile an hour day on the ground, so probably 8 mile an hour in the air. So my airspeed's about 30 mile an hour. The PeaBee will do 40 airspeed. So the differences aren't extreme, but it's enough. It's enough to realise that you can go that little bit faster to get somewhere. I'm not going to steal all my sandwiches because I want to do a PeaBee flight in a minute. And we'll talk a little bit more about that on the PeaBee. The PeaBee is a comfort machine. It's a light wind machine that really you can just point in a certain direction and go and enjoy the view in comfort. I did get quite warm before I took off. And you're almost like, just please let me get in the air. Please let me just cool down. And then that breeze, it's quite nice. Personally, I would actually paramotor in rougher, higher wind conditions than I would the PeaBee. That's my personal position. at the moment with my experience. I've had one landing that didn't go quite as to plan. So it didn't damage anything, but it was close. But that's because I had to land crosswind. It's really quite dangerous if you land a paramotor crosswind because, as in high winds, because you can end up breaking your ankle, your feet, your legs, or your landing gear. You can land a paramotor crosswind, but it's got to be very smooth and very light conditions for you to do it. So to go faster in a paramotor, for those that don't know about paramotoring, I have these little things on the back called trimmers, and they effectively change the angle of attack of a wing. So on a Flexwing world, that's pulling the bar in. So my speed at the moment is 27 miles an hour. I'm just going to let the trimmers out, because I need to lose some height anyway, so I may as well use it in speed. Now I don't use the brakes, so my difference in speed between fully trimmed in and fully trimmed out is between 39 and 42 mile an hour. So you get about 14 mile an hour difference between trims in and trims out. However, you do use significantly more power to do that, and that would be the same in the Flexwing world. You go faster, you need more power. But that's me maxed out on the trimmers. So I'm back over the top of the airfield, clean the wing up, bring the trimmers back in, back into slow, back on the brakes. Just some gentle wing overs. I don't want to overshoot and land in the farmer's crop. That won't be very helpful. Commit. I'm a bit fast. Forward, check to level, and we're down. And keep control on the wing. Oh, I overshot my landing point, but I'm happy. I'm in, I'm down, I'm safe. And that's what it's all about. Your feet's your landing gear, so let's keep it safe. So that's paramotoring. Let's go and fly that. Right, I'm all good. Just wish this wind would settle down. Okay, clear prop. Okay, wind is light, bar neutral, no stress, no strain. Let's take off. Camera away. No stress, no strain, no running. Now paramotoring, you tend to keep your hand pinned on the throttle to get away, because it needs everything. This thing, I'm already 700-800 RPM below max, just because it doesn't need, well, 1000 RPM, 1200 RPM below max, because it just doesn't need that extra punch. Once it's off the ground, it's very efficient. So the one thing with paramotoring that the Flexwing, from this is all about my perspective. This is my perspective on it. I'm sure there are many other people that will have a different view. Lots of people comments. This is just about my take on it, because frequently I get asked, which is the difference, you know, what's your favourite? And the simple answer is, one is not better than the other. They are different. They are horses for courses. So tonight I've actually been waiting for the wind to drop off, which in paramotoring world is insane. You always like a little bit of wind. You don't want lumps and bumps, but you always like a little bit of wind just to help the ground run and the landing run. That's fine. But in the PeaBee world I've got wheels, so it really doesn't matter whether it's a crosswind. I know one guy said to me it didn't matter if he had a tailwind, because actually the wheels, as long as you land it correctly, the wheels take that speed and then you slow it down. bar in or bar forward, depending on what you need. So the journey on landing is bar in. There's very little strain. Even if there is lumps and bumps, I'm taking my hands off the controls. It's not like having my hands up in the brakes and constantly having to adjust and pull. This thing just sorts itself out. I've kind of cheated. I have got the best of both worlds from my personal flying. I've got a machine that takes very little time to rig and will take off in the light wind conditions and the smooth conditions and down the runway conditions. And then if it's a little bit rougher, ironically, I'll go and fly the Paramotor. So speed difference into wind, where I had 21 miles an hour before, hands off, 30 miles an hour into wind. There's almost 9 miles an hour difference in the hands-off cruise speed. So you can go faster in the Paramotor with the trimmers out, but then you need more power to do that. And I'm barely holding 6,000 RPM in the cruise. The PeaBee gives me much more wind protection, and hopefully when lockdown rules change, I'll be able to go and utilise the PeaBee for some camping. How cool would that be? So it's probably quite a short video, and if the cameras do cut out before I get back to land, it is, as I said, very much horses for courses, and I feel very lucky to be able to use both and experience the joy of aviation. I've been at work all day and I'm now flying in the evening. Love it, absolutely love it. Wind is more prevailing down the runway this time, so that's good. Hey, happy with that. Brakes and wing down. So 2 flights back to back, same conditions, and I'm really pleased that I've managed to get them in the same conditions, because at least you can see the parity of one against the other. Generally, I would be happy flying paramotoring in this. This is probably the top end of what I would fly the PeaBee in. And that's my personal stance on it, and it's more to do with the crosswind requirement of this and the need of a PeaBee to land on an airstrip. So that's it from me. Hopefully you'll join me on the next adventure, and I've got a few more other videos lined up. So as I say, as always, until next time everybody, fly safe.